What up, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Fencer, Princer, SoundCloud, SoundClick, Reddit, and all points Democratic candidate for President Bernie Sanders. Now, I'm not really following too much on the presidential run, although I am glad that Jeb Bush is nowhere near that. And the front runner seems to be Donald Trump and I don't know, Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure, but I don't think Rubio's going to beat Trump. But nonetheless, I want to talk about B. Sanders, Bernie, my man. But I like Bernie. Bernie was back in the '60s. Bernie was out there fighting for black folks, getting arrested. When he was a young whippersnapper, but like Bernie knows the deal. This is something Hillary has never done. So there's no way I would vote for Hillary, not even close. I'd rather vote for her husband again. But Bernie Sanders made a mistake recently, and you can hear this on the Donkey of the Day on Charlemagne on World Star Hip Hop. Basically, what he said, but he made some comments that made me cringe. Talking about white people don't know what it's like to live in a ghetto. They don't know what it's like to be harassed walking down the street. No, I'm not sure about that. And they don't know what it's like to be poor. And I was like, B, come on. Like, listen, I'm a black man. Like, I'm a dark Maroon black man. Like, I understand all of what he's saying when it comes to black people. But to say that white people don't understand that, that is an all out, flat out lie. And I don't understand why he would make that generalization. I really don't. Because let's just take the current day menagerie of Flint, Michigan. Where it's, 44% of African Americans live there. But there is another small percentage of white people who live there, and they are going through the same hell as the black people. Their water is messed up. They can't use their water. They have to go out and purchase water. They're getting sick. Their kids are dying. They're dying just the same as the black people. That water is not discriminating and saying, you know what, all the black people, you're gonna die. You're gonna get cancer. You're gonna get all these diseases. And yes, some people have died. I think there's like 10 or 11 have died so far, and there's a lot of other people getting these diseases from the lead in the water. So Flint is going through, all that because of the crooked government there, Flint, Michigan. But those people who decided to poison the water or to let the water be poisoned, they didn't really care that there were poor white people there. They're poor white people. Now I grew up with some poor white folks, and they were some of the coolest. My dude Paul and his wife, they lived in the same building I did, the same damn roach infested projects, rat and roaches that got torn down because the rats and roaches took over. That's why they tore down the projects I lived in. If you don't know nothing about it, Braddock, Pennsylvania, in a place called the Bottom, right next to a steel mill, and a steel mill is still there on a one-way street. But now they just put up another mill. I don't know what mill it is, but that steel mill junk used to fall down on our heads and pollute us, pollute our food, and just give us hell as far as our health is concerned. But nobody really cared because we were poor. We lived, on a dead end street. And, we had a school. They shut down our school. It was just terrible. But there were some white people there, and there were very few, but they were there. And there are white people all over America who are dirt ass poor. When I say poor, I mean listen. They can identify with anybody in the world as far as poor goes, because some of these people are homeless. Now, if you don't believe that, you need to go to LA or Los Angeles, and is it Los Angeles or is it Florida, wherever Tent City is. I mean, those people are living in tents because they lost their homes. Like You know what I'm saying? Now there are a lot of African Americans lost their home too, but just to make the generalization that these white people don't know what it's like is just a damn lie. Now, if you want to talk about a certain demographics, you got to start putting out some numbers, Bernie, and saying, hey, you people who make this much a year, not unless they're just overspending. You know, they're just blowing their money, and a lot of people, you know, they live above their means, but nonetheless, they do have the resources to actually move out of that 5 6 bedroom, $1.3 million crib and move into a 3 bedroom, something smaller, and and actually make a good living for themselves. Now, there's a lot of African Americans who don't have that opportunity because they, for one, you can't buy houses in certain areas, and any. I've experienced that where I tried to rent a place and they're just like, no, you can't rent here because you're black. And people they'll just flat out tell you, you cannot rent here because you're black. So there are some places that black people just can't live, but nonetheless, some black people have nice houses. But nonetheless, every black person is still under the thumb of police harassment. Now, that's a very true statement. And and if you don't believe that, you need to look at what happened to Obama's friend. When Obama first came into office, he had a beer with a cop because one of his friends, who was some kind of professor, they came to his crib and arrested that dude. And Obama made a comment about it, and everybody just went nuts. And then he was like, "Oh, well, I'll just go have a beer." So he called himself, patching things up by sitting down and talking to the cop. But I'm like, to hell with that. If they did what they wasn't supposed to do, why are we having a beer with them placating the damn cop? Not to mention, another one of Obama's friends who was an elected official got shot dead by Dylan Roof in was it North or South Carolina? I don't know whatever one it was, or Texas. I don't know what state it was, but nonetheless, where they shot 9 people inside of a church. The leader of the church was Obama's friend, and that's why he did a whole dedication towards what had happened, what Dylan Roof had done. So, nonetheless, what I'm saying is, you know, black people all over the country are still, afraid to get in their car and drive and get stopped by the cops because they don't know if they're coming home. But Bernie Sanders, white people, there are very poor white people, and you want to know something else, Bernie? They're getting harassed by the cops too. They're getting harassed by the cops too. Now they might not be getting shot dead as much as black people, but they're still catching it too. So I would pretty much like if Bernie Sanders would keep his finger on the pulse of America and figure out who he is talking to, because there are poor white people, black and white, and they are all going through it. Trust and believe. And this is just my 2 cents on the menagerie of the day. It's your boy Tone 202. Stay safe and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.